Okay, so you should have added all the layers and set the color and the line type. And not that it's that important, but there is a slight difference between on and off and thaw and freeze. A lot of it just has to do with how the program works with itself. So right now I've got this on the A1 anodims layer, and I've done a zoom extents on it. If I were to freeze that layer and then did a ZE, get back on the right side of the screen here, ZE, you see nothing really happening there. So I thought back here. All right, let's do it this way. So freeze it, and then ZE, how it zooms out. If I did just the opposite, I'll go back and turn them back on again. And I had it off. I did the same thing, the ZE. It actually still recognizes what's in the background there, but the layer itself is not on. So it's a very subtle difference, but there is a difference between the two. Typically, a lot of times if you're running, and I'm not sure this works with the layer states quite as well, but we're going to create layer states. It's because it's a fast way to freeze and thaw layers. So I'll go to my actual finished drawing here. So once you create a layer state, you can get back to the layers that you want to see from what you set them as. And in this particular case, I'm going to have to run the restore. No, not the new layer state. The other one. Manage layer states and then restore. Sometimes you have to do that in the beginning for some reason. Alright, so then it gives me the layers that I want to see. So I'm curious as if I freeze the dimensions on here and then I run that layer state. The layer state is supposed to remember the last time you ran it. So manage layer state and restore again. So it turns them back on. So the layer state remembers whatever you saved it as. So if you've got something off or frozen in the layer state, you've got to go manage the layer state and turn it back on. But the idea of the layer state is just to get you all the layers you want to work with on at the same time. So all the first floor layers, all the second floor layers, all the elevation layers, whatever you're working with at the time. That's the idea behind it. And right now we don't have anything except the wall layers in ours, but to set this up correctly, what we'd want to do is come to the layer properties. Move this back over so you can see it a little bit better. And for the first floor, we don't want to see the second floor, so you would just freeze all those. But you'd want to see everything on and thawed for the first floor, but not for the second floor, for the first floor layer state, because you don't want to see the second floor with the first floor layer state. So you would just, and you want to make sure everything's on. So everything's on and thawed for the first floor, including layer 0, which I use as the control layer, so I would set that as current. And then I would freeze everything on the second. And then you come back to the layer states, which is in the drop down here, and say new layer state, and then you type in whatever it is. In this case, it's first floor plan. And so it's going to remember all those layers for the first floor plan from this point on. For the second floor plan, what you would need to do is go back to your layer properties, and this time you want to freeze all the first floor layers and make sure everything is on and thawed for the second floor. I would leave 0 as current, on and thawed. So that's all your second floor layers. And then you go back and you create the new layer state called the second floor plan. So now that we've done that, we should have the option of choosing in the layer states up here between the first floor plan or the second floor plan. So it's just a fast way to freeze and thaw layers. And as long as you set it up correctly, You know, it makes it really easy to work on the first floor or the second floor. And you just got to remember to set your layers as you're doing things. And like I say, it comes in real handy because as you work on stuff, you may need to get to any number of different layer states, but they're always set up in the same way. But that's the reason behind it. It just makes it easier to work with. Okay. So we're going to start adding doors, but we do have an issue with the door jamb itself. In the program default, the door jamb defaults to 4, 5, and 6 inches. Well, we drew our walls at 3.5 and 5.5, and that's not an option here. So in a couple of cases here, we're going to actually edit the block itself to make it more workable with what we're doing. So we're going to add 3.5 and 5.5. To do that, we have to go to the block editor. So you would select the object, then right click, go to block editor. It's going to bring up this, and what we want to change is this wall thickness here. So you would select that and right click again and go to properties, and it's going to give you this box, which you may need to expand down a little bit so you can see the distance value list. And right now it's defaulting to 4, 5, and 6, which is the AutoCAD default, but we're drawing our wall's actual frame size, so we needed to have 3.5 and 5.5 in there. So over here to the right, click on that, and then see this little box comes up, and then click again, and then you can come here and add 3.5 comma 5.5 and say add, and you see how it added 3.5 and 5.5 inches, and so we're going to OK that, and then we're going to close the block editor and we're going to save the changes. So now when we come back to that block, it's going to give us the option for 5.5 and 3.5 as well. So before we add any doors, you would have to do that. So where's the door? So it's actually, if you go to view and then go to tool palettes, go to architectural, door imperial, you can just drag it in. Now I've already changed it, so it should automatically be showing me all those other things. But basically, remember what you do is you would select the door once it's in, right click, go to block editor, we don't need this open anymore, go to wall thickness, go to properties, go, may have to expand this down, distance value list, and over here to the right you'll click on that box and it'll bring up this, and then you can add it, and then you save it, then close it.
Can you find the door again?
Alright, the door is found. Let me go back. So this is our home ribbon. Go to view, then tool palettes, and architectural, so like the fourth one down. Door imperials at the very top. And just drag, hold the mouse button over it, select it, and drag it over. So do that first. And then we'll actually start adding the doors. Give you a minute or two to do that. Okay, expand the box down a little bit. Yeah, right there.
Oh, there we go. This one?
Yeah. See that box there.
I'm gonna get it right there. 3.5 and 5.5.
Yeah, 3.5 pound chocolate fine.
Thank you.
Hey, that's electric wall with the screws. Escape that for a second. Think, escape again, I think. Alright, so. Alright, close this for a second. Sure. Start changes, alright, so. Where did you get the door from?
Finish your drawing.
No. Go to view. Go to tool palette. Go to pencil. Go to material. Yeah, that's it. That's what, right click, go to block editor. That's it. Property. Alright, so let's take that for a second. So let's see what we got. So go ahead and select it. Right click. Go to block editor. Select here and we'll click into the block. Right click. Okay, skip that. Save it. Right click on the wall. Still got selected. Property.
You won't be changing the actual blocks a whole lot, but you can't do it. So this is what we're doing.
Alright, escape for a second. This is just closing, let's get back into it. Just start the change. Alright, so select it, right click. Lock it to it now, kind of hover over that, right click. Properties. And then go right down. Yeah, expand this down a little bit. So it's like- So you got the door then? Alright, so select the door. No, wait, we gotta block it. Right click. Block editor. So now hover over wall, and now right click. Property. Expand this down.
And then
a
like
little bit.
exterior.
Kind of hover. Yeah, 3.5 inches and 5.5 inches.
I know, yeah.
Once you cut holes, it's very just gonna go right here. There's no side you want to keep. The same thing with this side. But you do have to use the block editor to add a couple of extra options here for the door and for the walking you back to my desk.
What are the sizes? Are we good at
So for, hover over this. Yeah, or, yeah, see right here. 3.5, comma, 5.5. Okay, are we good on the jam? All right. So let's start adding doors. Some of you have already started doing it anyway. Remember, I had told you to cut out the openings, but you probably still ought to double check just to make sure they're the right size. But you can do that by looking at the door schedule here and then also what it says on the floor plan, the completed floor plan. And the first door I'm going to look at is that D2 door, which is right here. All right, so first of all, I'm going to set it to the correct layer, and then I'm going to go back and drag in the door again. Yeah, there it is. All right, so there are several things on the door itself that we can use to some extent. One is if you need to make the door bigger or smaller, you can drag it from 2 feet to 3 feet 4 here. This particular door is a 2 feet 8 door. I'm gonna want, terrible English, I'm going to want the door to open at 45 degrees, and that's done by this symbol here. And then pay attention to the direction of the door. Sometimes it's just easier to rotate stuff through the modify ribbon. So RO for rotate, or it's up here too. And just rotate it in the direction you need it to be. In this particular case, I need it, if I have my ortho on, it'll go 90 degrees. Then I can move it and move. I never can remember which side we need to line this up on. But we can change this to the actual width of the wall now. So 45 degrees, the width of the door. You have to pay attention to the direction it's opening. The next door up is into the powder, which is a D3 door. The D3 is actually 2.6. Again, if you actually cut these openings the width they need to be, you can kind of just look at the floor plan to figure out which direction they need to go. So you could either bring in another door, or you could just copy this door and change it. Again, I think it's sometimes just easier. Maybe copy what's already there and then rotate it and then move it into place. This door is going to be 2 inches too big, so just move it back over this way. This is also a D3 door, it's the same size, so I'm just going to copy this one up, and it's opening down. So I'm going to rotate it to begin with, and then I'm going to move it into place. But there is a flip arrow on these doors, so you can actually flip the direction. It may or may not go the direction you want it to go, so. That is the direction I want it. So you just play with it and figure out which direction it needs to be. But there are flip arrows that'll help you do that. The D5 is not a swing door. It's actually a pocket door. We're going to get that out of the shared directory. So to do that, you would go to Insert. Oh, there we go. More options. Browse. All right, so we need to go to the S drive. Stay away from here. I don't use blocks out of there. Go to Instructors. Find my name. Architectural, residential, blocks, floor plans, first floor plan blocks, first floor plan symbols. All right, so there's 4 doors that are in here. That D5, I believe, is a 2/8 pocket door. So you're gonna open that. You can specify the rotation on the screen. You probably won't need to change, but it's best to do it that way. All right, so this needs to actually, it's not a good hot point on this, so you're just gonna have to kind of place it and then move it. Because what needs to happen there is, this actually needs to be over the top of the wall here, and then you'll trim the wall out. Then at the back here, there's is another block out of the shared directory. It's the sliding glass door right there. So you have to go back to Insert, More Options, Browse, A1 Plan Door, 12-foot sliding. Again, this has not got a good hot point on it either. So just kind of place it. The 2 doors in the middle should be to the inside, but it does need to be moved to where you align it with the wall here. Right now I have running object snaps, so that's O snap. Of endpoint, I'm going to take center off. I think midpoint's better. Endpoint, midpoint, intersection. I would take extension off and perpendicular. I think for the plan, typically endpoint, midpoint, intersection, and perpendicular are more useful. Anyway, so the doors in the middle should be to the inside, and this should be aligning the width of the wall here for that door. The door into the utility where the washer and dryer is, that's a D6 door, which I believe is a 3-foot door, if I remember correctly. Yes. So that's a 3/0 pocket door. So that's another insert. More options, browse. It's going to be the 3/0 pocket door. This one has a better hot point on it, but it's basically aligns with the wall here. The D1 is a 3-foot door, and it's in from the garage into the utility from the other side. So either copy a door or just drag one in. I think I'll just copy one of these already. Let's see. It's going to open the opposite direction, so I'll use the flip arrow, maybe. There we go. Then I'm going to move it into place. This particular one has a 5.5 inch, and I missed my intersection, so I'm going to move it. Make sure the jamb is the same width as the wall. And the door is 3 feet, so I need to expand it. The D2, I'm looking at the door schedule, is a 2/8. And that's this door here. And it's opening back that direction. So I'm actually going to copy And then I'm going to rotate the door. I think it's just a little bit easier. And then I'm going to move that into place. Change the jamb thickness to the width of the wall. Change the door width to the correct size. And then we've got a D9 door right there. The D9 is a 3-foot door. So I'm going to take this door, I'm going to rotate it, and I've got ortho on, so when I flip it like that, if the ortho's on, it's a 90 degree. This, I believe, probably needs to open the other direction. And now I'm going to move that into place. The garage doors are also has an insert. So garage A1 plan door overhead. All right, it's going to sort of align here, but really the front of the doors is going to be out in the wall, and the back of the door is going to be aligning with the back. So once you get it in, you need to move it forward to where the second line aligns and not the first one. Then you can either do another insert or just copy it down, because we've got two 8-foot garage doors there. Then we have a closet door here, which is centered there, and that's a D3. The D3 is 2 feet 6. So I'm just going to copy one of the other doors over. It's going to go the other direction. Front door is 3 feet. So I'm going to copy one of these 3-foot doors over. I'm going to flip it. All right, I'm going to go back to my home ribbon, and I'm going to run my second floor. Go back to view. Well, first of all, we need to set the layer. So it's A2, floor door, second floor door. And now I'm going to go back to view and tool palettes and door imperial and bring that door in. All right, so there's about 3 or 4 doors up here. One is a D2, which is right here. The D2 is a 2-4 door. So I'm going to move this over. Actually, I'm going to rotate it. Rotate. Ortho needs to be on. Gotta flip it. Gotta make sure it's open at 45 degrees. Cam's too big. Door's too big. All right, same door into the bedroom there. It's a D2. It's actually a pretty small door. Okay, I put it in the wrong place, so I need to move it. And it actually opens the other direction, so I'm going to flip it. There's another D2 door here, so I'm going to copy and rotate. And then move that into place. There's also a D2 door here, so I'm going to copy this one over. But it opens the other direction, so I'm going to flip it. And then there's one more. Right there. There is also a plywood door in front of the water heater that doesn't look like that door. So we go to the insert, and this time we need the second floor blocks, not the first floor blocks. Second floor symbols. Water heater panel. That one belongs in front of the water heater. And it aligns with the wall. So the front of that panel aligns with the front of the wall here. Going to go back to the first floor, running my layer state. Alright, so AutoCAD does have a window embedded in here, but I don't like it. So I had Sam Gideon create a limited dynamic block for the window several years ago. And the windows are going to belong on glazing. Glazing stands for glass. Alright, so if you use the one out of, we're not going to, so you don't have to do this, but if you use the one out of here, what they have in there for that is this, and that's all they have for it. But typically you draw the frame and the window and the trim beneath to represent what's happening. So I don't think that's a very good symbol, so we're not going to use that one. What we are going to use is an insert that's already embedded in the program that I embedded in the template. It's this window here. Alright, if you can't do it that way, you can go to more options and just the one that says window here. Bring it in that way. So there are several things happening with that. The hidden line is actually in line with the siding that would be there, that's underneath the window. And then this is the seal of the window that goes out, and then this is the inside edge. And so there's only one direction you can drag this in. The particular window in the back here is that W2 window, which I believe is 3 feet wide. Sometimes you have to be kind of off the mark a little bit. So essentially what that means is that the outside frame and the yellow line for the outside of the window is going to be like that. And then the hidden line's always going to be to the exterior because the hidden line represents the siding. So all the way around the building, whatever the window size is, it's always going to be to the outside. So again, I'm going to copy, then I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, and as long as your ortho is on, it'll be vertical. So the yellow line here is aligning with the blue line or the frame wall. These windows are W3, so they're 4 feet wide up in front. And this is to the outside, so the hidden line goes downward on those. Alright, so in this particular case, I'm going to have to move it to the other side because to expand it, I've got to drag it in this direction. Then it goes back to a W3. No, I guess that W3 is the same size. It's still a 4-foot window. All right. Then it goes back to a W2 here, which is a 3-foot window. So I'm actually going to copy one of these over. Alright, in the front it's got a W24 window, which is 2 3.0 windows, mulled, which means there's no framing between, so it's a 3-foot window and a 3-foot window that butt against each other. Hidden line always goes to the exterior. Because it's representing the siding that would be there underneath the seal. And then we have that same condition again. Alright, so this is the outside, this is the inside, so the hidden line goes to the right over here. And then we have another 4-foot window there. Apparently I moved it instead of copied it. Okay. Siding comes in different sizes. Structural frame, the studs are always going to be the same size, 3.5 or 5.5. Siding can vary depending on the manufacturer, so we don't really know what size it is. So as a nominal offset, we're going to use 3 inches for the siding. And so you would set it to the layer, go back to your home ribbon, go back to your layer properties, and then if you go to a wall siding, set that as current. When you do, we're going to use a 3-inch offset. To do that, if you go to offset and before you actually offset anything, type in LA for layer and say current for that. And then, well, let's see. Try that again. Offset. Layer, we want to make sure it's current. That's right. And then the actual offset's going to be 3 inches. Enter. And so when you come back and offset to the outside, it'll offset to the correct layer. So that red hidden line's actually representing the siding underneath the window sill there. And then just like you did with the walls, you would come back and clean up those intersections with a fillet. And you use fillet and type in M for multiple. You don't have to retype in the command every time. All right, at the doors, it's going to return to the wall, so you have to just draw a line there.
So it'll be on the siding layer.
Yeah, still on the siding. It's just the edge of the siding. It's returning at the door, though, including the garage doors. You don't have to do it at the windows, just at the doors. All right, the likelihood is that you were taught that blocks are always supposed to be on layered 0. That doesn't work for architectural drawings. It just doesn't. Because typically you have to have 3 or more different line tops and probably different layers for the block for it to work correctly. So these first floor windows actually have 3 layers associated with them. That's so we can have a hidden line and a continuous line and a different color line. They're on 3 separate layers. So it may work for technical drawing. It really doesn't work for architectural drawings. So to do the second floor, we're going to have to modify the first floor window block to create a second floor window block. So if we run our second floor layer state and we try to put in that original window that we had, we're still going to have an A2 floor glazing layer, which it would be correct for the current layer for the windows. But as soon as you try to bring in that same block, this one, you're not going to see it because that block is associated with first floor layers, like the first floor glazing and the first floor partial height, I believe it is, and then the first floor wall frame hidden. So those are the layers associated with that block. It's only going to show up on the first floor, even if you've got it on the second floor glazing layer. So what we have to do is, this is another block we're going to modify, actually create another block. So you can see this is all the first floor windows, then we don't really need those to show up on the second floor. Even if this is on A2 floor glaze, all those first floor layers would have to be satisfied, so we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is take that, go to the block editor, and this time we're going to change the layers. So, but at the very end we're going to save the block as, which is very important, or we'll obliterate the first floor block. At any rate, the yellow lines are going to be the glazing layer. So what you'll do is you'll select all those vertical. You don't want to select the dynamics, but individually select all those yellow lines there. And then we'll go to properties. And instead of A1 floor glaze, we need to expand this down to where it says A2 floor glaze. That one. And then we'll escape that. Then we'll pick the 4 outside red lines here. Go to properties and change it to, instead of A1 wall partial height, we'll change it to A2 wall partial height. And then escape that. And then the last one, which is this one, which is actually a hidden line, change that to A2 wall frame hidden. And then escape that. Now, don't just close the block editor or you obliterate the first 4 windows. What you need to do over here under Open Save is save block as. And then we can name it second floor window or whatever you want to name it. It's just got to be different from the window block we used for the first floor. Now we can close it. Okay, so I'm going to rerun the second floor plan. Because it's a new block, you have to reinsert it. So we're going to reset the floor to the glazing layer. And then we're going to go back to insert and insert, not window. We need to find what we just added, so it's going to be in the drop down here. What did I call it? The second floor window. Second floor window. And then you do the same thing as you did on the first floor. But you've got to create a new block definition, basically. So you had to change that existing block, the layers, to the second floor layers, and then reinsert it as a second floor block under that new block name. If you don't do that, you'll obliterate your first floor block, or you won't get it to show up for your second floor block. But once you've done that, you can use that block, which is now a new block based on the second floor layers, and they did the same thing we did on the first floor. And then you would also add your siding, the 3 inches out on the A2 wall siding layer. That's not in the right place. Not in the right place. Yep, that's not right. Make sure the yellow line aligns with the blue line. That's another mold window in the back. Then don't forget to add the siding. The 3-inch offset. And don't forget to go back and fill up the siding after you finish putting it in. Alright. Nothing new in drawing, but just to backtrack a little bit. A single hung window is where it moves in the bottom, basically. Double hungs where both of them move. Hoppers where one moves out. Awning where it opens at the top and moves out at the bottom. Casement is kind of where it opens, usually with a crank. Horizontal slider, it's like a sliding glass door. Pocket doors where it slides into the wall. Bifold is where it kind of folds against itself. Sliding glass door is kind of like this sliding window. Accordion doors you don't see too much used. There are different types of, flush doors. This would be considered like a 1 light. That'd be like a 15 light, 9 light. It's considered divided lights. Typically, they're applied and not true divided lights. If they were true divided light, then it would be individual pieces of glass. Most of the time, those mullions are applied over the top, so it's easier to change the glass out. And then you've got different types of doors, sometimes solid core, sometimes hollow core. Atrium doors are different than French doors. French doors, typically both of them open in. Atrium door, typically one side is fixed and the other side opens in. So it just kind of depends on the particular door you're looking at the time. You can have a louvered door as well. Different types of front doors. Solid core is usually used from the garage or from the outside to the inside. French doors and the sliding glass doors are more typically used in the rear. Anyway, and you can have divided lights for windows too. And again, if they're true divided light, they're individual panes. It's very expensive to do it that way. You still see that used some in the Northeast, but not so much here in this area. So single hung, double hung, horizontal slider, fixed glass. Round top means it's a full arch. Arch top means it's an elliptical arch. DL stands for dilated light. We're still using what's on our schedule, but these are pretty typical for most houses. And we talked about the rest of this except for the toilets. They're also gotten out of the view template. So if I go back to the first floor, there's going to be one here and one here, and the exact location doesn't matter at the moment. They are going to belong on the plumbing layer. We'll move them in the correct location next time. But you do get those out of the view template, and it's under tool palettes, and it's under architectural, and it's called toilet imperial. It will come in as an elevation, but it is dynamic. You just need to select it and go to here and change it to round plan. And then we're going to rotate that, and they belong 2 inches off the wall. So we're going to move it into better placement next time, but it is going to be 2 inches out from the wall. And it's going to be somewhere in that general area, and there's going to be another one that's up here. And after we talk about cabinets and location of the lavatory and the bathtub and vanities, we'll move those better into place next time. You do have to drag it back in again for the second floor. So you go to your second floor layer state. And that one's going to be more or less right there. It's going to be on the second floor plumbing. It would be view, tool palettes, toilet imperial, just drag it in. Change it to round plan. Actually, it goes this direction. And they need to be 2 inches off the wall. The exact location we'll determine next time.